Good evening from Lagos, everyone. I am Nifemi Oguntoye, and this is Beyond 100 Days. You can join the conversation right now on X using the hashtag Beyond 100 Days. Remember to tag at TVC News On. As we approach the 90th birthday of literary legend, Professor Wole Soyinka, President Bola Tinubu has made a significant announcement. The National Theatre in Igomu will now be renamed the Wole Soyinka Center for Culture and the Creative Arts. President Tinubu praised Professor Soyinka as one of the finest minds of his generation, a champion of democracy and a fearless voice against corruption. He also saluted his courage and commended him for his valiant efforts in the trenches for the nation's future, both as a pro-democracy champion and as a trenchant voice against corruption and maladministration over several decades. President Tinubu wished Professor Soyinka many more years in good health, as well as some creative fulfillment as a global force for change. Happy 90th birthday. Well, that's a milestone, no doubt. Let's move on now to the landmark Supreme Court judgment granting financial autonomy to local governments. Reactions are pouring in, and former Governor of Ogun State, Gbenga Daniel, is commending President Tinubu for his courage and leadership. He believes his move will bring Nigeria back on track for growth and development. The former governor did say that President Tinubu has demonstrated uncommon courage and leadership in a manner that seeks to return Nigeria on a trajectory of growth and development. The lawmaker in a statement said the constitutional resolution is long overdue because the local government administration is the closest to the grassroots, and they should have the capacity to impact directly on the lives of the people through the initiation of life-changing programs and projects. He goes ahead to add that President Tinubu and the Supreme Court have restored sanity to the Nigerian political space, as this will allow for dividends of democracy to reach the masses. Senator Orji Uzor Kalu is also weighing in, appealing to the federal government to consider having INEC conduct local government elections instead of state electoral commissions. He sees this as a victory for democracy and urges state governors to embrace the Supreme Court decision. This, he said, will further strengthen the autonomy to the local governments and reduce pressure on state governments. Reacting to Thursday judgment, Senator Uzor Kalu called on the 36 state governors to accept it as victory for democracy for themselves and indeed all Nigerians. So let's break it down for you, the highlights of the Supreme Court judgment. First, the court ordered that funds should be withheld from local governments that don't have democratically elected officials in place, and that's a big deal. Next is the court barring governors and their agents from dissolving democratically elected local government officials and replacing them with caretaker committees. The court also made it clear that caretaker committees are unconstitutional and the state governments have been avoiding local elections to maintain control over local councils. The judgment also emphasized that local governments are not subordinate to state governments, just as states aren't subordinate to the federal government. Specifically, it did say states are not subordinate to the federal, just as local governments shouldn't be subservient to the states. Well, I guess time will tell whether or not the local government chairman will free themselves, and we'll be talking about that shortly. To further this discourse, I'm joined in the studio by lawyer Kayode Oyemakinde. Mr. Oyemakinde, thank you for joining us on the program.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Everyone is crazy about this judgment, but it's not the first time the Apex Court is making a similar pronouncement. I'll take you back to May 7, 2021. Two separate judgments delivered on Friday. The dissolution of elected local government administration in Oyo and Katsina State. The Supreme Court did say it's illegal and unconstitutional. And prior to that time, there was a similar case in Ekiti. What makes this different from the position of the Supreme Court?
Yes, you see, we have a very unique judicial system. However, it is the job of the judiciary to make pronouncements, but it is not their job for enforcement. So the issues where we are having as regards previous pronouncements by our courts, either the Supreme Court, the Court of Appeal, or any of the federal high courts or high courts, is as a result of implementation. But if you look at the body language of the current administration, I think that this particular judgment will be enforced with the way things have been going. because all of a sudden they just woke up one day that the Attorney General of the Federation was instituting a matter at the Supreme Court.
And that's amazing because this has been on for over 2 decades.
Yes.
And it happened in less than 3 months. I mean, the Attorney General just instituted a case against the 36 governors, and you're wondering, I mean, it's not rocket science.
Like what happened, really?
Any president could have done that as early as 1999. What do you think went wrong all the while?
Well, it's if you look at the, what's the name, manifesto of this current administration, if you go back to it, you'll see something as regards federalism and the likes like that. So I want to believe that the president is living up to his manifesto. He said some things about taxation. We're already seeing the taxes coming up regularly these days. He said something about the regulation of the downstream oil sector. We are already seeing that from the day of...
And we are paying from our nose, I mean, especially the price
Unfortunately,
and the economy is not smiling anyways.
Well, it is hitting everybody. It is hitting everybody, but unfortunately, it is everywhere all over the world.
I don't know if you are also enrolled in Band A.
Yes.
I mean, that's
yes,
crazy,
I'm paying
right?
through my nose.
I'm paying for petrol, paying for lights. I mean, don't let us even go there. But do you think it's going to be as easy as we like to think it is? Because attorneys general of at least 33 states were unanimous in asking the Supreme Court to strike out the suit by the AGF for lacking the legal right to commence a legal action. That's almost all the 36 states. So I'm sure they're not smiling as we speak.
The Supreme Court is like a policy maker as regards matters like this. So whatever the Supreme Court says, it's binding.
The Supreme Court has been saying this since. That's the point I'm making.
That's why I said the body language of the current administration looks as if...
We have seen a video where some local government chairmen are prostrating to a state governor.
Which is not supposed...
And they were even singing. No, but that's the current setup. Will they let go easily? Will they obey the court decision?
I don't expect them to let go easily. That's one of the reasons why Adamawa State said they are going to court for interpretation of the judgment, especially... not only Adamawa State, some other state governments are also gearing up to the best of my knowledge. But if we look at this thing, why is it so difficult for governors to let go of local governments? More or less, the local governments are like an extension of the state government, which is not supposed to be. And this is where I have an issue with state police. You can imagine if governors now have power as regards police or the policing system, that they can hire and fire and the likes like that. You can imagine the abuse that will happen. I would prefer state police, but the way and manner at which our system is being fashioned, an example is the local government administration in Nigeria. Local governments are practically just paying salaries and doing one or two things. Registration of birth, deaths, and marriages is a function of the local government. How many local governments are really doing that? Do you even have belief in that? For example, you give birth today, or you want to get married today, you prefer going to Federal High Court, Federal Registry, Ikoyi, or many other places that have the federal body. You don't want to really go to the state's organization, the local government organization. Why? They don't have like a proper structure, like records and the likes like that. Probably a few. That's why people prefer to go to Ikoyi other than their nearest local government.
The way we have run the local governments over the years as an appendage of the state government, with all of this money coming in, are you confident that we have the manpower, the wherewithal to be able to do justice to it?
Well, I believe so. Because if the funding is coming directly from the federal government into the account of the state government, he who pays the piper dictates the tune. That suggests that the federal government also have power to question them as regards their spending. Not that they will go to the state governor or the state governor will give them X amount of money as regards their own, what they believe they should spend, which might be, of course, it should be less that the state government will be giving them. So at this point in time, myself and you will now have more focus on our local government. If you ask the average person in Nigeria, what is the name of a local government chairman? They don't know. We have 774 local governments in Nigeria. A lot of people don't even know.
Well, at best, what they do is pay salaries and chieftaincy allowances.
Thank you very much.
But I understand financial autonomy. But do you think they have political autonomy?
They will have.
Considering the way and manner they were brought into office. You take Rivers, for instance, some caretaker committee chairmen have been appointed, and then they're counted down to an election that they are all likely going to come into power. as supporters of the state government. And it's not limited to Rivers State. There are about 18 states.
21 states,
you know,
as at today.
With caretaker committees.
Yes.
Without that political autonomy, do you think it would matter whether they're receiving the money? Because I can send you out and say, you're going to collect the money, but I would tell you how to spend the money because I put you there in the first place.
And when the FCC starts coming after them, the state government will not come to help them out.
They won't come after the governor.
They won't come after the governor. They will go after the... You don't have immunity. So the thing is, the local government chairman will need to tell the governor, Your Excellency, I'm so sorry. If you say I should give you, probably they're giving me 5 billion naira monthly as my allocation from the federal government. And you say I should bring probably 2 billion or 1 billion naira. What do you want me to tell the FCC if they come looking after my books? What do you want me to tell them?
So we expect a lot of political infighting.
So right now, the state governors will now respect the local government. And also, we are giving them more power. They are now going to be responsible more to the people because you now have the autonomy you've been looking for. You now have better funding. What are you using the money for? We'll be able to ask questions. So right now, everybody shouts the federal government, we shout the state government. A lot of people don't look at the local government. So right now, we'll be having more focus on the local government to see how their spending goes. Their administration, the spending, what comes in, their taxes, and the likes like that. For example, our parks, our markets, abattoirs, and so on. Section 1, Section 7, subsection 1 of the 1999 Constitution, as amended, enshrines, how will I put it? It guarantees the establishment of local governments in Nigeria. Yes, it establishes it. But if you look further down in the section I just mentioned, Section 7, subsection 1, are they really living up to their bidding? Are they living up to the powers that the Constitution has given them? No, the state governments are taking over the local governments, which is not supposed to be.
Interesting. It sounds a little bit more like what happens between governors and their godfathers. And then once you become governor, the former governor is asking you to send some money, allegedly, and then the man says, you know what, I am now responsible for the people. I can't do this again.
Yeah.
But we also be questioning how easy it will be now to let go of a chairman who is not complying. We'll talk more about that after this break. Stay with us, everyone. Don't go away.
Bola Ahmed Tinubu, do solemnly swear.
In development, as we follow up with the local government autonomy as reaffirmed by the Apex Court, how are the governors reacting? We spoke to two of them in this clip. We also spoke with the Senate President as well as the Attorney General of the Federation.
I call it local government emancipation judgment because it has really emancipated the local government from, the shackles of the past.
The federal government, through President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, feels strongly about separation of powers and the need for autonomy of all arms of government. And so, for us in the legislature, the Supreme Court has spoken, and we have no option than to abide by the Supreme Court ruling.
I promised the people of Anambra that we're going to have local government election, and I stated that in my inaugural speech. We've just passed the Independent Electoral Commission law of Anambra State, and we're putting together the institutions to be able to organize that. It's a promise I made to the people, a promise I am serious about keeping.
About the Supreme Court judgment, Nigeria is a democratic country, and we know very well that President Tinubu and the renewed hope agenda is a democratic one. And I believe that the judgment is taken in very good faith.
Lawyer Kayode Oyemakinde is my guest on the show today. Some have hilariously said that the body language is different when you're watching the Senate President and the Attorney General, and the other two governors seem to be looking, trying to say about their body language. What do you think is going on in the mind of governors right now? Do you think there is strategizing?
Of course, I expect them to push because the monies from the local government are more or less like, to me, extra change for them. Well, how they use it is another kettle of fish entirely. However, the local governments will be happy, or the local government chairman will be not happy that they have more money to work with. The state governments have lesser money as a result of the extra monies they've been collecting from the local government. But the question right now is, why are they pushing? Why is Adamawa State going back to the Supreme Court for interpretation? Why is it that they don't want to let go? It is enshrined in the 1999 Constitution that there are separations of power. The federal government, the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature. Fine. And we have three tiers of government. The federal government, the state government, the judiciary, and the local government. Why don't they stay independent of the local government? There are still some places or some issues that this local government will still go back to the state. For example, at the state assembly, where the local government cannot function, they revert to the state assembly. The state assembly has power over the local government. So there are still places that they will still have to judge. But as regards the financial part, they are totally independent. They don't need to meet. The government cannot just sit down and say, I want to see all the local government chairmen in the next 10 minutes. Anywhere they are, they'll start running around because they know what is at stake. But right now, sir, we are busy. We also have what we are doing. The way they will call them before and the way they will call them as from yesterday moving forward is going to be totally different.
I mean, there are a lot of memes online about how excited local government chairmen are. But we also went to town to, feel the pulse of Nigerians and find out how are they reacting really to the Supreme Court judgment.
The Supreme Court has re-emphasized that now that local government should be autonomous. I think that's the position of the law and that is the right thing. That is the true democracy. So the question now is, even if the local government are autonomous, are they going to use that autonomy to do the right thing? Would they represent the interest of the people? Are we going to see the development springing up at different corners of Nigeria now at the local government level?
There should be check and balance. They can monitor them. They can be monitoring team to monitor the money given to them. Except they don't want to do it, they can do it.
In as much as they are still under the state, it's the responsibility of the state to also monitor. I think somebody should be held responsible or accountable for any financial transaction and everything. I think it should be seen as well. I think it's a good development and it's going to help our democracy.
Many top people in the country, even opposition to this present government, they are supporting that view. So I think it's a very good thing that the Court of Appeals brought in.
Chairmen are sincere. They were able to develop the local governments because maybe before they were not able to get a lot of money, the money required for them to do the construction. But now they don't have any reason at all not to do anything.
Nigerians seem quite excited about the judgment, but how much impact will they have on their lives? Perhaps it also brings to mind, Mr. Oyemakinde, the involvement of the citizenry. Recall what happened in Ogun State. A young lady was in Ogun, saw how bad the roads were, went to X and started ranting about it. Almost everybody, caught the fever and started sharing the pictures and videos of how bad their roads are. Recently, I saw Governor Abiodun, he actually came out monitoring the roads and making promises. What level of accountability and how involved do you think the people can be with this new law?
Well, the way we've been following up with the federal government and the state government, you will now see that the local government too, you see a little bit of more engagement from the citizenry and the local government leadership, basically, because they have no other excuse right now. For example, before the former governor of Lagos State, before his time, Governor Fashola, you see that we usually have double taxations as regards tenancy, tenement rate and land use charge. When people complained, he had a town hall meeting and he merged them into one. We have the tenement rate and the land use charge merged into one. It will now be called land use charge. Of course, tenement rate is for the local government. Land use charge is for the federal government. So when they collect it from source, that's the state government, they have a sharing formula at which they will share to all the local governments as generated from each local government. What comes in from this local government, and so on and so forth, they have a sharing formula. I don't know whether they will revert back to the old method of generating that, or probably the arrangement will still be. But what I'm trying to tell you in essence is that generation that have been coming to the local government, I expect more right now. The funds coming from the federal government, I expect more impact. Why? They don't have any excuse. Before you say, state government has done this, they've done that, and so on and so forth. They've told us to do this, they've told us to do that. There is nothing else we can do right now because they've been handicapped. But right now, they are no more handicapped, meaning that you have your total freedom. So what excuse do you want to give? The people will now look out for the impact they're expecting, the duties as regards what is enshrined in the 1999 Constitution and other books that establishes the local government in the whole Federation of Nigeria. Where any local government chairman is coming up with excuses, I'm so sure that they will talk to the wards, that it seems as if you need to pass a message to the chairman.
It also sounds like governors will now have to sit up because they can't count, local government operations as part of their achievements again. All of those funds are no longer in their hands. But you mentioned that Madam Awa is seeking interpretation.
Yes.
Let us try let's make an attempt at interpreting. What's the implication of this judgment on the current caretaker committees as currently constituted in many of the states in Nigeria?
It's so easy. They won't get any money because the monies will only go to democratically elected local governments of Nigeria, not caretaker committees. For example, Rivers State. About 2 weeks ago, they were appointed. They won't get any fund. So that suggests that the state governments will be funding...
On the local government?
No, they'll be funding the caretaker. And as a matter of fact, based on the decision given by the Supreme Court yesterday, that caretaker committee is illegal.
Well, they already scheduled an election, I think, for October.
Whatever.
They'll just speed things up.
Which suggests further that the local government elections should always come up, will now be coming up before the expiration of the tenure of the local government chairman and the leaders in the house, the ward members and the likes like that, the councillors, because they know that they have an expiry date and they must not exceed that date. For example, Tinubu came in May 29. We know that Buhari will finish May 29 last year, 2023. INEC knew that they are bound to conduct elections before
amount of time.
Before that day. And they did. Same thing will now happen to the local government.
No, it is a norm. I mean, even democratically elected chairmen have been asked to go by new governors. I mean, a lot of people...
They don't have that power any longer.
That's not expected to happen again.
They don't have power anymore.
But you heard Senator Orji Uzokhalu saying, you know what, perhaps INEC should start conducting the local government elections.
They will.
What we have seen thus far is that the ruling party just wins all of the seats. I mean, all of the local government areas.
Go to Ebonyi State. I think on Saturday, APC cleared everything. In Lagos State, no PDP, no Labour. They cleared everything. So where you have Labour Party, you have Labour Party, I think in Abia State or thereabouts, you should expect that Labour Party will win all the local government seats there and the councillorship seats.
You think that's going to change because of who's conducting the election?
Yes. So right now, you might be seeing a state having probably 10 states, for example. Probably APC will be taking 4. PDP might be taking 3. Labour might be taking 2. Probably one funny party you've not really heard the name before might be taking 1 or 2 here and there. You will not really know that the way people are conducting the elections is now becoming a little bit different from the norm. Why? You know that if you are popular to the people, the grassroots, you can manifest, you can push your manifesto across, and if people like you, they'll vote for you.
What happens to the state ministries of local government and chieftaincy council? Because each state seems to have that as a ministry.
Yes. Now, remember I said that there are still some areas that the state government and the local government are having like a handshake together. That's an example. Because the state government will be the one to hand over the staff of office to all the chieftaincy portfolios we have here and there, like the obas and the likes like that. But they can't do it all alone. So the ministry is the arm of government that will do that for the state government. But they don't do it all alone. They also do it in conjunction with the local government.
We've run out of time. We'll continue this conversation subsequently. Kayode Oyemakide, lawyer, thank you so much for talking to us.
It's a pleasure.
And that's our show today. You can watch it all over again at midnight and at 6 a.m. tomorrow. I am Nifebi Oguntoye. See you again at the top of the hour.